Most people who visit Vietnam never actually see it. They land in Hanoi, ride a bus to Ha Long Bay, take the same boat tour everyone takes, photograph the same limestone karsts from the same angle, and come home, believing they have understood a country that has been hiding its real face from tourists for decades. Not out of secrecy, but simply because the real face requires more effort to find than a travel agent is usually willing to admit. Vietnam is not a highlight reel. It is a living, breathing, occasionally overwhelming argument about what a country can be when geography, history, and human stubbornness all collide in the same narrow strip of land. It is a place where the ground beneath your feet has been fought over so many times by so many different empires that the soil itself seems to hold a kind of tension. A low hum of everything that happened here, just below the surface. We are going to 5 places on this journey. 5 places that together tell a story no postcard has ever managed to tell. We begin in the north, in the mountains, on a road that has no real right to be as beautiful as it is. And we end in the south, on a river so alive, it feels like a separate country unto itself. This is the Vietnam they never show you. Ha Giang Loop. The road starts before sunrise because Ha Giang is the kind of place that rewards people who move before the world wakes up. You are in the northernmost province of Vietnam, pressed against the Chinese border, in a landscape so geologically violent and so visually extreme that the first time most visitors see it, they simply stop talking. The mountains here are not the gentle, rolling kind. They are karst formations. Ancient limestone pillars driven upward by millions of years of tectonic pressure, their faces sheer and dark, their peaks lost in low cloud for most of the morning. Between them, rice terraces cascade down slopes at angles that seem to defy the simple physics of how soil stays on a hillside, carved by the hands of Hmong and Thai farmers, whose families have worked this exact ground for generations beyond any written record. The Ha Giang Loop is a circuit road of roughly 400 kilometers that winds through all of this, up and over mountain passes, down into valleys where the fog sits so thick in the morning, you can push your hand through it and watch it curl, through villages so remote that the road itself feels like an intrusion, an apology written in asphalt for arriving somewhere that never asked to be arrived at. At Ma Pi Leng Pass, a section of road carved directly into the face of a cliff, dropping 600 meters to the Nho Que River below, there is a moment, if you stop at the right point and the cloud cooperates, where the emerald green of the water appears so far below you that it looks painted rather than real. A color that sharp at that depth, in that shadow, seems like something the eye should not be capable of receiving. And yet, there it is. A local Hmong guide named Sùng, who has driven this pass hundreds of times, still stops at that exact spot on clear mornings. Not for the tourists, for himself. He says the river looks different every single day, and that after 30 years on this road, he has never once seen it look the same twice. He doesn't say this to be poetic. He says it the way a person states a fact they have personally verified over decades and found repeatedly confirmed. Here is what the travel brochures about Ha Giang never quite managed to say. This is not a scenic drive. It is a lesson in what a landscape can do to a human nervous system when every assumption about scale and distance and color turns out to be wrong. Quick pause. I recently started this channel to take you to the world's most extraordinary and hidden places. We're still at the very beginning, so every subscriber really matters. If this kind of content helps you understand the world better, consider subscribing. It helps me keep exploring and bring you even more breathtaking destinations and make even better videos. Thanks. Now let's keep traveling together. Doong Cave, now descend. Not metaphorically, literally, because the next chapter of this story happens underground, in a darkness so complete and so ancient that the human eye cannot adjust to it. It simply gives up. Doong Cave was discovered in 1991 by a local farmer named Ho Kan, who stumbled upon its entrance in the jungle of Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park while sheltering from a storm. He heard wind coming from inside the earth and felt unusual cold air, and he ran. He ran, and then, for nearly 2 decades, he didn't tell anyone, partly because he couldn't find it again, partly because there are things in the Vietnamese jungle that a person encounters and quietly decides to leave alone. When British cave explorers finally reached its interior in 2009, what they found shattered every existing record for cave dimensions on Earth. Doong is the largest known cave in the world, not by a small margin. Its main passage is wide enough to fit a 40-story building inside it. Its length stretches over 9 kilometers. In 2 places, the ceiling has collapsed, what are called dolines, and through those collapses, sunlight falls vertically into the cave floor. Creating islands of jungle inside the darkness. Actual jungle. Trees 30 meters tall growing underground, rooted in the cave floor, reaching toward those 2 narrow columns of light like something from a world that evolved in the absence of any fixed rules about where things are allowed to grow. The cave has its own weather, its own river, its own clouds. On humid mornings, mist forms inside the cave and drifts through the underground forest, and the combination, sunlight, fog, ancient limestone formations the size of buildings, jungle growing in permanent geological shadow, creates the most alien landscape most humans will ever stand inside while still technically remaining on Earth. Only a few hundred people are permitted to enter Doong each year. The permit process is intentionally restrictive, the journey physically demanding, the access deliberately difficult. Which means there is a cave on this planet right now, holding jungles and clouds and rivers in its interior that almost no one alive will ever personally witness. The first night spent camping inside Doong in the underground forest with the 2 columns of light gone dark and the cave entirely black and the river running somewhere nearby in the stone, produces, according to virtually everyone who has experienced it, one consistent sensation. The feeling of being so completely outside human history that the word lost stops being frightening and starts being something closer to relief. Hoi An Ancient Town. But Vietnam is not only wilderness and underground worlds. Some of its most powerful stories are written in very old wood, in the color of lanterns lit at dusk, in the way a city can hold 500 years of trade history inside its streets without turning any of it into a museum. Hội An sits on the Thu Bon River in central Vietnam, and it has survived things that should have destroyed it several times over. It was a major Southeast Asian trading port from the 15th century onward. Chinese, Japanese, Dutch, Portuguese merchants, all maintaining warehouses and meeting houses here, their distinct architectural influences bleeding into each other until the town became something that belonged entirely to none of them. Japanese covered bridges beside Chinese assembly halls, beside French colonial facades, beside Vietnamese tube houses built narrow and deep to minimize taxable street frontage. Every building a negotiation between cultures that would have been at war with each other anywhere else. The wars came later, and Hội An somehow survived them too. The French colonial period, the American War, the bombing of virtually every other major urban center in central Vietnam. Hội An was largely spared, and the reason it was spared, historians believe, was its very lack of strategic importance. Too small, too shallow in the river to receive modern warships, too far from the fighting to matter. Its irrelevance protected it. The city that was too minor to destroy became, in a historical irony, so clean it almost seems designed, the best preserved trading port in Southeast Asia. Walk through the ancient town at dusk when the electricity is cut in the historic district and 1,000 lanterns come on simultaneously. Red, yellow, gold, their light reflecting off the river in slow-moving columns. And you are inside something that does not belong to the present tense. The smells of incense from the assembly halls, grilled river fish from the market stalls, the damp stone of buildings that have been standing since before any country now on Earth existed in its current form. All of it arrives at once, not as information, but as atmosphere. An elderly woman named Ba Lan, whose family has lived in the same tube house on Tran Pu Street for 6 generations, lights her lantern every evening at the same moment her grandmother did, at the same window, facing the same river. She does not consider this nostalgic. She considers it accurate, the correct way to exist inside a story that began long before her and will continue long after. Ha Long Bay. Here is the confession about Ha Long Bay that nobody in the tourism industry wants to make. The photographs are accurate. The reality is, if anything, more extreme. And that is a problem, because Ha Long Bay, nearly 2,000 limestone karsts and islands rising out of emerald water in northeastern Vietnam, is one of the genuinely, undeniably, almost offensively beautiful places on the surface of this earth, and it has been photographed so many times, printed on so many calendars, featured in so many travel ads, that arriving there for the first time produces a strange doubling effect. The sensation of being somewhere you have never been, that your body nonetheless recognizes completely. The karsts here were formed over 500 million years. They began as coral reefs on an ancient seafloor, compressed into limestone, uplifted by tectonic movement. Then dissolved and sculpted over millions of years by rainwater slightly acidic enough to eat slowly through stone. A geological patience so vast it makes human history feel like an afterthought scrawled in the margin of something much longer. Local fishermen have lived among these formations for generations. In floating villages that shift and rearrange themselves with the seasons. children growing up on boats with no fixed address except the water itself. A fisherman named Thang, who was born on his family's boat and has rarely slept on solid ground in his life, navigates through the karsts in low fog by sound. The specific echo his engine makes bouncing off different stone faces, each one distinctive enough to function as a landmark for a man who grew up reading the bay not with his eyes but with his ears. That detail, a man who knows a bay so well he has memorized the sound of it, contains something that the photographs, however accurate, can never hold. Ha Long Bay was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site not once but twice. First for its scenic beauty, then again separately for its geological and biological significance, as if a single designation couldn't hold everything the place required. And yet even that distinction misses what it feels like to sit on the deck of a boat in the middle of those formations at 5 in the morning, when the mist is low and the water is completely still, and the karsts emerge from the fog one by one like ideas arriving slowly, and the whole scene is so quiet you can hear your own breathing, and it sounds, for a moment, like the loudest thing in the world. Quick pause. I recently started this channel to take you to the world's most extraordinary and hidden places. We're still at the very beginning, so every subscriber really matters. If this kind of content helps you understand the world better, consider subscribing. It helps me keep exploring and bring you even more breathtaking destinations and make even better videos. Thanks. Now let's keep traveling together. Mekong Delta. The Mekong River begins in the Tibetan Plateau, a thin thread of snowmelt at over 5,000 meters of altitude. And by the time it reaches southern Vietnam, it has traveled nearly 5,000 kilometers and swollen into something that is less a river than a civilization with a water surface. The Mekong Delta is where the river finally reaches the sea, fracturing into 9 main channels and hundreds of smaller waterways, spreading across 40,000 square kilometers of flatland so low and so wet that during flood season, the boundary between river and land essentially dissolves. Rice paddies, villages, markets, orchards, all of it floats or sits barely above water, or adapts itself to the rhythm of a river that rises and falls on its own schedule, indifferent to human planning. The floating markets of the Delta are among the last genuinely functional ones remaining in Southeast Asia. At Kai Bay and Phuong Hiep, boats loaded with tropical fruit, vegetables, and dry goods converge before sunrise in the middle of the river, trading between vessels through a system that requires almost no verbal communication. Each boat hangs its primary product on a pole above the bow, a floating advertisement visible from a distance, and buyers navigate toward what they need. It is a market system invented to function on water, refined over centuries, operating every single morning before most of the world is awake. A woman named Ko Hoa has been selling pomelos from her boat at the same stretch of river for over 30 years. She wakes at 2 in the morning to be in position before the market peaks. She knows every regular customer's boat by silhouette alone. She has raised 4 children on this water, educated them on this water, married them off from this water. When the younger generation suggests she sell her boat and open a shop on land instead, she looks at the suggestion the way someone might look at an instruction written in a language they have never learned. The Delta is also, slowly and without much international attention, disappearing. Rising sea levels are pushing saltwater further up the river channels each year, contaminating agricultural land that has fed this region for centuries. Erosion is swallowing the riverbanks faster than sediment can replace them. The delta that exists today is measurably smaller than the delta that existed 30 years ago, and the trajectory for the communities built entirely on and around its water points in a direction nobody in those floating markets is willing to say aloud. Ko Hoa knows this. She sells her pomelos at sunrise and watches the water level and says nothing about it. Because what would there be to say? This is her river. It has always given and sometimes taken away. That is the contract she signed before she was old enough to understand contracts, and she has no intention of defaulting on it now. Vietnam is a country of 500 million years of karst and 5,000 kilometers of river. And 9 kilometers of underground jungle and 1 road that takes 30 years to see properly. It is also a country of 6 generations in the same tube house, and a man who reads a bay with his ears, and a woman who wakes at 2 in the morning because the pomelos don't wait for sunrise. The Ha Giang Loop taught you that beauty in Vietnam does not sit at the roadside waiting for you. It appears only when you move toward it, through fog and altitude and early cold, at a pace the mountain finds acceptable. Son Doong reminded you that the most extraordinary places on Earth are not the ones most visited, but the ones most protected, and that their protection is inseparable from their power. Hội An showed you what a city looks like when history is not preserved as a museum exhibit, but lived in, lantern by lantern, evening after evening, by people who understand that their address is a story still being written. Ha Long Bay asked you to look at a photograph you've seen 1,000 times and find, still inside it, something you have never seen before, and somehow it delivered. And the Mekong Delta told you the oldest truth in this entire journey, that the most alive places are always also the most fragile, that the contract between humans and the landscapes that made them is never fully guaranteed, and that the right response to that uncertainty is not to mourn it from a distance, but to wake at 2 in the morning, load your boat, and show up. If this video has taken you somewhere you would not otherwise have gone, subscribe. This channel exists because stories like these deserve to be told. And there are hundreds more waiting. Roads not yet driven, caves not yet entered, rivers not yet understood. Cities holding centuries of history inside old wood and paper lanterns. Vietnam is not a destination. It is a question the country keeps asking you. From the mountains to the sea, mile by mile, long after you've gone home, the right answer is always to go back.